everybody, and welcome to the Mysidian Legend Podcast. My name is David, and each week I'm joined by Alex. Say hello, Alex.
You think you're so funny.
So before we started this episode, David was making fun of me, so I wanted to kind of razz him a little bit. So if it's your first time listening, we generally go over our locals experience and all of our deck lists and stuff, and how we can improve our play for the future. But this week we did not go to locals. I was home with the flu, and David is a weenie. So we're just going to be talking about a couple of decks that we've been testing against each other, and then if we have time, we're also going to get into some spoilers. How's that sound, David?
Sounds great, but listen, if you're not going to locals, I'm not going to locals.
Yeah, well, we're having a small turnout lately anyway, so it's harder to fire if we don't get the hardcore people out anyway. So,
I mean, me and you basically run the show, so
yeah.
Without us, there is no locals without us.
Oh yeah, we're celebrities, I'm sure. So, before we get started, we're going to mention our usual deal for the listeners. If you shop at Cards of Evilise for your singles, you can use the promo code PORUMPALUM10 for your purchase. And when you do that, it shows that you support the Mysidia Post, and it gets you a nice discount on your order. So, use that promo code PORUMPALUM10 at cardsofevilise.com.
Y'all wouldn't know it by the way he sounds, but Alex has been dying for the past 5 weeks, and he won't go to the doctor. But this is the most energetic and happy I've heard him it's probably since the last time we recorded.
Yeah, well, I'm ramping it up for the pod, and then I'm gonna slink back into my chair and
instantly right back to bed
and just moan for the rest of the day. Okay, so let's get into the
TMI,
the
bro. TMI.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start with the deck that I've been playing a lot of. It's an Ice Wind deck, and it is Final Fantasy 14 themed, which is a game that I've been playing a lot of recently. So the deck is pretty much a wind-ice split down the middle, and the central theme is that you want to play Kani Senna, the whole package, the Seed Seer package. So that's your Arun Senna will search the Kani forward and the backup, so that you can kind of get going efficiently, and then she can't be targeted by abilities. But this deck gives you access to Varus, who, when played with three different types of CP, can search anything, and his action ability is to recur Final Fantasy 14 forward. So this gives the deck something it didn't necessarily have before, which is a way to recur Kani Senna, and then of course that also works on other 14 forwards like Y'shtola. So that's kind of the idea. So I thought, okay, I need to get my third CP in, and I put the Class 8th Moogle in Wind, which produces Earth CP, and then for good measure I slapped 3 Cecil Legends into the deck. So we have 3 Earth cards, just 3 Cecils for the EX Burst and for removal, and we have 3 Class 8th Moogles to get that Earth CP. So sounds pretty good, right? The problem is that Varus doesn't always fire. He's actually very difficult to set up. I really like him for that action ability, but you can't play a 3 CP backup that doesn't do anything, so oftentimes he gets lost. But right now this is a fun deck, so I'm going to keep playing Varus. The rest of the deck is actually working very smoothly, and the Cecil has been great so far. And I also do have a Nidhogg to be able to be brought back with the Varus as well, although that's a very expensive move. So, David, you've been playing against the deck the last little bit in our playtesting. What have you thought?
It's very frustrating to play against, so that's a sign that it's a pretty good deck. It's debilitating because you do run cards like Sarah, discard, 3 CP Zidane, Garland, 9, Squall, Sephiroth, Vayne, 7 CP Sephiroth, obviously. I think I said that. And you can flicker him with Renoa. And you got Wind, so Wind just values you to no end with, free Diabolos and stuff, and Kani Senna being a pseudo pain and reactivating all your backups. And being in 9K untargetable. It's really frustrating to play against, which I'm sure that's kind of what you're going for. Oh, and Scale Toad as well.
Yeah.
So I'm discarding every single goddamn turn. Um, yeah, it's frustrating. It's good, and I'm interested to see how it performs at like on a local level.
Yeah, so there's the Nagmalata, searches a Scale Toad, or the Death Gaze 9. There's your 9 card. And then otherwise, it's got discard. It's got a boatload of removal because you have Diabolos, Zilira, Glacia, Death Gaze, Nidhogg, Yasmat, Cecil, Squall, and then of course one of the best things that you have in Wind Ice is your Fina Renoa combo, and we have one Devout to kind of get that. To be able to devout in a Renoa so that you can mess up people's plans with some recursion on Nidhogg or whatever forward you want. So just generally, if you want to try this deck, you want to set up your Icewind Earth backups and the Seed Seer package as quickly as possible, and then get a Scale Toad out, and then at that point it's just kind of like wind stuff where you're flooding the board and getting your shoulder down, and if you need a one-sided board clear, you have Renoa to combo with a bunch of stuff. So it's pretty simple, but just really fun to play.
It's really a deck that you're not going to make a lot of friends with. Like, if I didn't know you, I don't know if I would talk to you ever again.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Because it's not like a full discard.
You've never been on this side.
Well, I've played it. Like, if you play against a lot of the Wind Ice decks we've seen in the meta, they really get after, like, they're super aggressive with discard, and they have a lot of non-fun things. But this has some of those things.
It's not fun.
Okay, let's move on to your deck then.
All right, so I'm playing a Water Wind deck. You know, YRP. Ever heard of it?
Yeah, except this is I'm not gonna say this isn't a bad thing. But it's like the hardest way to play YRP.
Yeah, it's not the easiest. So I'm playing a Light Yuna deck. When Light Yuna was released back in Opus 7, I pulled 2 from my box, but I ended up trading them for, I don't know, Yuri's or something. Basically, because I had started around like Opus 6, Opus 7, so my collection was still really wanting. So when I pulled the 2 Light Yunas, I kind of traded them for things more staples that I needed to kind of fill my collection out a little bit.
That's
so when
smart.
I finally got, yeah, right. But then I always wanted to build a Light Yuna deck. So now that I finally ended up getting some Light Yunas, I was finally able to build this deck. So it's got your YRP. So you got 2 of the Light Yunas, 3 of the value pains from Opus 1, 1 of the Searcher pains, and it's got 3 of the forward Rikus from the starter deck. Now, why would you do that? Because I think that's a really difficult card to get rid of. If Yuna's around, it's an 8K. It's plus 2K power. It can't be chosen by summons. If there's a pain around, it's a 10K and can't be chosen by abilities as well. So 10K that can't be chosen by stuff. You kind of have to go through 2 bodyguards to try and get to Riku, which is a big body there. And then with the way that Yuna can just keep coming back from the break zone, pretty much Riku can never be targeted by summons because you always want to have Yuna on the field.
Yeah, it feels really bad to remove the Yuna for multiple reasons, because you just bring it back. And so those of you that don't know this Riku, you probably know the pain. They're from the same starter deck, but the Riku's from the Opus 1 starter deck, so it's a pretty old card that hasn't seen play in a long time. But you remove this Yuna, it just comes back, but there's also another card from that starter deck that David's going to talk about in a sec that makes it it deters you in a big way from removing the Yuna.
Right, and that would be another card from the Opus 1 starter deck. It's 6 CP Tidus. So 6 CP Tidus reads, the cost to acquire Tidus play Tidus on the field is reduced by 1 for each category 10 forward you control. So that's Yuna, Pain, Riku. So really it could just be a 3-drop 9K. And if you control a card named Yuna, Tidus gains Brave. And when Yuna is put from the field to the break zone, you draw 2 cards. So that's nuts, right? So if I fanfrit my own Yuna, I'm drawing 2 cards, and then I can just bring back Yuna right away, giving Tidus Brave again.
And what's the most that you've paid to play Tidus onto the field?
The most I've ever spent on Tidus was 5.
5, okay, which isn't terrible.
And that's still absolutely, that's still on curve. Like, you're playing a 9K for 5 CP, so that's exactly on curve.
Yeah, no ETB, but
no ETB, which is fair.
Yeah, you get them down to 3. Now we're talking. Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a fun thing. You enter combat, you swing with Tidus with Brave. People aren't going to really want to block that. And then if they do, you can fanfrit your own Yuna and draw 2 cards off of it. It just generates a lot of card draw. And then just to kind of fill things out, you got Fina of 3 of the Finas, of course, because Veil 4 Fina is kind of my kill condition. 3 of the 3 CPs that on because I need Final Fantasy 9 cards, and 1 of the starter deck Garnet to help me. Basically, this is a fun play that my old friend, I'll plug his channel a little bit, get him back on FFTCG, Josepher, kind of taught me in one of his videos, was to completely ditch your hand, and except for the resources to play the Garnet, and then she searches up a 1 CP summon Poo-Poo, discard 1 card, then draw 2 cards. So basically, it's a 3 CP, 5k body that you draw 2 cards off of. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds good to me.
Obviously, I'm running a lot of summons in this deck, so Poo-Poo, 1 CP Leviathan, 1 CP Kukulane, because if I flip in summons on the top of my deck with Light Yuna, I don't really want to be spending a heck of a lot of CP on that. 3 Veil 4, 3 Famfrit, 2 Diabolos, and then backups are pretty standard for Weewa, except for they don't have a Yuna.
Well, there's a few things here. So first of all, how many summons total is that?
I'm running summons. I'm running 13 summons.
13 summons. That's a lot. So you're going to be able to use Yuna's ability 4 times.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to be able to, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Exactly. You got to build around that.
Yeah, and I feel like you've used it maybe 3 times when we played.
I wasn't keeping track, but yeah, it needs to get right back on the field.
There were some games where it just came back multiple times. Like, it was crazy.
And then the one game where you were able to remove both of them from the game, like, that's it. I can't come back from that. Like, game over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I had a good. I got lucky there. Now, if someone tries to remove it from the game, can you stack the recursion of it? Oh, but it's only in your main phase, so they're gonna do it during their turn, right?
On their turn. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Unless I somehow am able to get a Phoenix in here, a 4 CP Phoenix, but I don't know if that's worth it.
Now, looking at your backups, you've got 2 CP Waka, the power booster, and that affects quite a few cards, so that's good.
Yeah, that affects most of my main forwards. It makes Yuna quasi threatening. It'll bring her up to a 7k. So,
and that's important. That's pretty sweet.
That's a pretty big jump. Yeah, 6k to 7k.
What's the other Yuna combo that you have here with Astrologian?
So I'm running the 3. You need to run three of the Opus X Astrologian. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a backup, add it to your hand by dulling it. So basically, what you do, you got Yuna. Her ability costs 0, so you flip the top one. If it's a summon, cast it, sure, if you want. But if it's a backup, you can tap dull Astrologian and pick that card up to your hand. So it's another card draw engine. So just keep draw those backups or cast those summons.
Yeah, and those backups are going to be CP because you'll have set up. But that Astrologian, I think it's pronounced right.
Oh my goodness!
Like, it's surprising how, because you can do this Yuna ability once per turn, and it's great. Like, if you can check your EX bursts and stuff, you can pop it. Oh, it's a backup. Bring it into my hand. All of a sudden, it's like you drew 3 cards your next turn, and those were 2 forwards, and you don't have to pitch one for CP anymore because you drew that third card, the backup, and lets you kind of combo more, which is nice.
Yeah, it's cool. Kind of quasi drawing optimistically 4 cards for 2 turns because you can use Yuna's ability on your turn, and then you can use it on their turn. And if you have a Opus 4 No set up when you attack reactivated backup, you're reactivating Astrologian. So maybe you could do it again on their turn. You're reactivating Waka if you want to buff your guys. So that's another combo that you got there.
Now, do you ever Hail Mary and just kind of check the card on the top of your deck? Because if it's not a backup, you have to put it into the break zone.
Or it's a summon, so I can cast it. But
yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, let's say you don't have Yuna, you just have the Astrologian out, and you're like, oh, okay, I need, I want to turn this 1 CP into 2 CP.
There's definitely times like that. Typically not early game because there's no need for it. But if I'm late game and I need something, I need an answer, I need a good EX burst, then yeah, I'll Hail Mary it.
Okay, well, riddle me this. What if you flip...
riddle me this.
Okay, so it's... You use Yuna's ability. It reveals the Opus II Rare Pain, the Searcher one. And you're like, I don't want to draw that. Do you chuck it into your break zone using the Astrologian?
Am I completely set up? Like, do I have the Yuna?
Yeah, like, is there a scenario where you would ever just be like, nah, I'll pass on that card?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If I already have my stuff, I'd eat the pain or I'd eat the 6 backup I don't need, for sure.
What if you... Okay, here's another one. You don't have... I know these are so niche. I was going to say if you have a summon and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to put that summon into our break zone so I have 3 to recur Yuna, but you might just cast it anyway, so it's like, well, okay. No, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so one more thing here. You have a card in your backup lineup that personally I think is a big no.
What drugs are you on? I'll have what he's having.
In all seriousness, No is a super fun card, and I used to play it in Mono Wind, and I've since fallen out of love with it. I think that it's a really greedy card, in that, of course, you're going to be successful with it, and you're going to feel really good about it, but there's lots of games where playing a 3 CP backup that doesn't do anything, that loss of CP is really crucial. But when we've played, it's been fairly useful for you. So how do you feel about the card overall?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yet you're right, 3 CP is expensive for something that comes in and sits there on its ass. But if it reactivates the Astrologian or the Waka that same turn, let's say, then it becomes relevant instantly, because then I can use Astrologian again, which is a key component to the Yuna combo, where I can use Waka again. So say tap Waka, or gotta stop saying that word, dull Waka, buff Yuna to 7k, swing with Yuna, reactivate Waka, boom, it's an 8k, and then all of a sudden that 2k, that's very relevant, because if you're trading up your 2-drop that you can recur every 5 seconds with a, their 4-drop something, feels good.
And sometimes you float CP, right? Sometimes you attack with all your forwards, and you don't really need to play something with the reactivated CP. But then you have something like Archer that you can get after people with and spend that CP if you need to. So I think that the No definitely works very well in this deck, and I do not fault you for putting it in there.
No, it's an investment, but I think it pays off in the end.
Yeah. So
you're making that CP back.
Any changes that you're looking at for this deck? Because this is very much a deck in progress for you.
It is.
A DIP, if you will.
You're a dip. I do want to put in the Layla Viking Cloud of Darkness shenags in here. I just don't know what, because it's a very small list of forwards. I'm only running 21 because you need a lot of summons and 16 backups. That's pretty standard. I don't want to brick like I do every time I play you, but I really want the Cloud of Darkness engine in here. But I don't know. I can't figure out where to go from to get there. Like, do I cut the Zidanes? Do I cut the one Ash, which I kind of just threw in there because it's a good card? Do I drop down to 2 Finas? I don't know.
I think, yeah, it's a really tight forward lineup. I think that you actually do cut like maybe one Zidane and like one Tidus, one Ash. Like there's 3 cards, but like you need 6 for the Layla Viking, and then you need like it's gonna be, you almost can't do it without cutting on your summons or like fully removing certain pieces. But I think that in a deck like this where you need to set up, Zidane is very important as a disruption to your opponent's hand.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not 6. It's so you got 3 for Viking, right? Maybe 2 for Layla, and then you probably want to run 2 Cloud of Darkness because you don't want to run just 1. So that's 7 cards. So then that's a third of my forward lineup. So it's going to be tough if I want to try and squeeze that in there.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's gonna, yeah. I don't know that would end up working. You could. I mean, do you need card draw, or I guess you have lots of card draw too, though.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? That's something that we'll have to just test and figure out.
One thing that has not worked for me at all has been Fiend of Baleful, because I've only ever tested this deck against you, and I haven't pulled it off. Then again, you're making me discard every 5 seconds, so
Yeah, that's not a good. The one thing about playing me is that you've almost never been able to stockpile cards. Like you're a combo deck that literally can't
do
combo. Like there's a reason Scale Toad is really, really strong. Its best matchup is against Windwater. So you've literally just been testing against like one of your hardest matchups. So that's fine. Like when you play against other decks, you're gonna have like 5 card hands all the time, and you're gonna be able to hold on to a Fino, hold on to a Valfor. So we should actually test more with other decks. That was what Locals was supposed to be this week, but we just didn't get out there.
Yeah. This week though, assuming you're not dying.
Yeah, we'll be able to do it, and maybe we'll be putting some starter cards in there as well, since neither of us have got our starter decks yet, right?
Ooh, I didn't even think about anything like that.
Yeah, the starter deck, I don't think the colors help you out that much.
I was about to say, yeah, unless I wanted to... Yeah, no. I was thinking maybe could dodge, but...
Yeah, but then no, you can't do that. Well, then, if you could put dark and light cards together, then...
Oh, shoot, yeah, you're right.
Chaos would be great, the new Chaos. Okay, in terms of my deck in progress... It's fine. I like it. I think it's great. I want to test it more. I don't think I need to change anything right now.
This deck is perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, we are going to talk a little bit about some spoilers, and why don't you lead us off?
So, one card that I'm really excited about is the new Orphan, which I'm surprised it's only a hero. So, Orphan reads 5 CP, 9k on curve. When Orphan enters the field or at the beginning of your attack phase during each of your turns, choose up to 2 forwards or monsters opponent controls. Place 1 Doom counter on. So, counters are a thing now. Then, break all characters with 3 or more Doom counters placed on them. So, everyone might hate on this because Diabolos is a thing. But, so it enters, right? So that's 1 Doom counter to everything. Then enter your attack phase. That's another
Oh, it's 2 things, I guess, right?
Because that's 2 things in 1 turn. So then if it survives until your next turn, then that's 2 forwards or monsters down. Right
now,
there.
If you Renoa it applies... You could go...
wow. Oh, you're right.
Orphan.
Renoa or Une.
Go to attack phase. Main phase 2, play Renoa. Kill 2 things.
Yep. So it really puts your opponent on a quick clock. Like,
you can also just do it double main phase, like Orphan, Renoa, pass to attack phase. If they don't kill him by your pass to attack phase, then he kills 2 things. Although that is 9 CP for to kill 2 things, which is like Raiden level, but you get 2 forwards. That's the difference. Like you get 2 forwards, which is huge.
Yeah. So, yeah, you Une this even. I know that's also a big investment, or Renault it. Trading 2 forwards, I'd do that, absolutely.
It's actually easier to Une this, assuming you set up, than it is to Renault it. So
yeah.
And then
so
after that, it's just
be a game changer.
It's a time bomb after that.
Exactly, because then they play another forward, and those doom counters are going to be coming by their next turn. That's 2 more doom counters coming on your next turn. So I think that's going to be a scary card. And preview to another show, I think this card might change the meta.
Yeah, big time. So the first one I want to talk about is already out. It's Kadaj, the starter version, and we actually did have an ice version spoiled the other day, but this is a 4 CP dark card, and I'm just gonna pull them up because I have all my notes, but I don't actually have the card in front of me. So he's a 4 CP dark forward with 9,000 power, so he's already above curve. He has EX burst. When Kadaj enters the field, select one of 3 of the following actions: choose 1 forward, dull it, choose up to 2 cards from either player's break zone, remove them from the game, and choose 1 forward. Until the end of the turn, it gains 2,000 power and brave. At the end of each turn, you can remove him from the game, and if you do so at the end of your opponent's turn, you play him back onto the field. So he's going to get his ETB every turn, which is really great. It happens at the end of your opponent's turn, so you can play him then and dull something that hasn't been dulled, and you could remove things from the game. And the give the 2,000 power and brave actually lasts until the end of your turn, so it's going to be powered up until the next turn. So it's a really versatile card, and I really like it, not just because it's an EX burst, but it just seems like super powerful, super flexible. You can leave it to block if you want to 4-drop 9k. You can just keep removing it constantly every turn if you're not in the pressure zone, and just keep removing things from the game. So this actually saw a lot of play yesterday in California at the Card Forge 1k, and it was just removing waft cards. It was removing Weewa summons and kind of just beating up on people. So it's already seeing play and has already been confirmed to be a solid card.
For sure. And correct me if I'm wrong. So if it comes in on the end of your opponent's turn, that means there's no summoning sickness for your turn for attacking.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So,
yeah, so it's going to be
not only is he hiding from your opponent's summons and your ways to remove it, because it's obviously removed from the game, and then it comes back and it can attack, and it gets its ETB every single turn. So bananas.
When you said hide, it just made me think that flavor wise, wouldn't this have been really good on one of 2 Final Fantasy IV cards? This could have been a really cool like Edward card. He just like hides at the end of his turn, right? Or it could have been a really good Dragoon, like a really cool Kane that just jumps every turn.
I like the idea of it being a Dragoon. Yeah,
like that,
I think Edward can get the heck out of my party.
I'm trying to work out how this is Kadaj. Like he comes back from, I can't even think. Like he kind of comes back from like Sephiroth, and then he's in. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, this card looks super solid. It goes in literally every single deck as a tech card, and it just is nice because I don't really see a downside to it besides just taking up a dark slot.
Which is fine if you're not running more than the one. Alex.
Yeah, and last set we had Hein and Reagan, and I was thinking like these dark cards are so good, we're never gonna bump them out of decks. But now it's like, well, you know what, it's just a competitive slot. Like dark cards can be all really good because you're never gonna run all of them, and you're gonna have to pick and choose depending on the meta and depending on your own deck. So that's kind of interesting.
Wow, these dark cards are never gonna be replaced. They're so good. Kadaj, hold my Mako.
No, yeah, exactly. Right now, before Before I read the card fully, I thought it came in at the start of your turn. So I had written down, I have it crossed out on my word processor, but I had these niche. I literally labeled it niche plays, and I wrote down Airborne Trooper, Jake, and Knight from Opus X. So those are all cards that do something when a forward of yours enters the field, but it doesn't matter if it's their turn. So.
No, it comes in on their turn, yeah.
Yeah, so those don't matter. But it was still fun to try to think about, like, what would benefit from him entering the field.
Your deck.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, what do you have for your next card?
Next card I want to talk about is Yuna. So cards that create new decks, I instantly love. Yeah, so we had somewhat of a summoner deck could be coming. Oh my goodness, could be coming with I worked late last night. Leave me alone. I need you to get all the way off my back. A summoner's deck was kind of teased with the 3 CP Braska that decreases the cost required for summoners by 1. But now I think Yuna makes that deck viable. So Yuna reads, the cost required to cast your summons is reduced by 1 for each job summoner forward you control. So, and then when it enters the field, choose 1 summon in your break zone, place it at the bottom of your deck. So that's kind of irrelevant. It's cute, but whatever. We're really in it for the first one. So you have that. You have... I just realized it was only forward summoners, but oh well. So you get this, and you get the 2 CP Yuna, which I've been playing around with, and all of a sudden Fanfrits cost 1. So have a Viking out there, or have your 6 CP Tidus out there, and because this is a Final Fantasy X card as well, Category 10 card, so that decreases the cost of Tidus. 1 cost Fanfrit, Yuna goes to the break zone, draw 2 cards. That's value. That's good stuff.
Yeah, so and I think this card is just perfect. Like, it's a 4 CP 8K, so they're making you, like, it's not going to be good to just play. You have to have Braska. Without Braska, this is going to be bordering unplayable because of that's just a steep card to try to play that doesn't immediately do something. And I actually, that last bit of text when when Yuna enters the field, choose 1 summon in your break zone, place it at the bottom of your deck. That actually, I think that's a nerf to playing it with Light Yuna.
Ooh,
They're trying to make it so the Light Yuna play isn't too easy.
Right, because then there goes one thing to bring her back.
Now, overall, I don't think that's going to be the end of the world because you're going to play so many summons, and it's actually going to be really nice when you go to kind of a deck out battle that you're drawing some summons, possibly some removal that you can use to win the deck out, because maybe you've played a couple of Yunalescas, but I think that this is just such a well printed card. Like, it's neat. I'm really excited to see your summoner deck after this.
Yeah, because you play with Braska, so that makes her 3 CP, makes Light Yuna 1 CP. If you want to play the Legendary Yuna that's coming out this Opus, which I have mixed feelings on right now, that makes it cheaper. Your backup Icos cost 1 or 2, depending on which one you want to play. You're probably going to play the 2 CP one, so that costs 1. So I mean, things get cheaper, and I think that there's a deck to be had here. And plus, the art is super sexy, so even if you're losing, you can console yourself in that.
You gotta love that Mobius art. I remember pulling that card in Mobius and realizing it wasn't rare or good. I was disappointed.
No, fair enough. It's good for the eyes.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of the Mobius cards are. Okay, so the card I've picked is Chaos. It's the Dark Hero card for the set. It is a 1 CP Dark Backup, job Chaos, and he's got some abilities. So when Chaos enters the field, choose 1 forward of cost 5 or more in your break zone. You may pay X, and when you do so, if its cost is X, play it onto the field. He has an action ability 3 in Dull, and then remove him from the game. Choose one character your opponent controls, remove it from the game. So these are some really powerful abilities, but when you actually break it down, they're fine, and it's still like obviously a very cool card, but you'll have to build around this. So what I mean is that it's not actually going to be easy to play, because you need to have the CP to play a forward of cost 5, and that forward of cost 5 has to be in your break zone already. It does give you that removal option so that you can just play this as a 1 CP backup if you're tight, and then use it for removal later. But that removal is actually pretty steep at 4 CP. So when you remove this card from the game, when you use it to remove something from the game, it's like you're casting a 4 CP Odin. Now, this can target monsters or backups, which is great, again, but you just have to make sure that it's really worth it. Like, for example, would you really pay 4 CP losing a backup to remove a Rampire from the game? Your opponent might actually, they won't be able to pull their Rampire combo off, but they might actually be behind, or you might be behind in CP expenditure. So it's a really tricky card. You have to use it properly, but I think that it's going to add pretty nice removal and recursion into any element.
I think it's a definite. It's a great win condition. So you remove something from the game, and then you can swing out. Or it's just like a desperate play, like I just need to remove something because I got nothing else going on.
But if you remove something like a 5 CP Yuna, you can use it to remove something like a Maria, like a 4 CP Snow backup. Like there's some really good backup targets that you don't lose CP on necessarily that are pretty neat. Now, if you're going to play this, you can play it in any element, but you're unlikely to be playing any dark forwards with this, because the other chaos is the chaos that lets you play multiple dark things. So unless you're running Spiritus, you're generally not going to be playing this with dark forwards, although it could technically bring back a dark forward. You generally want to hit an odd costed card, so a 5 or a 7 cost card that has an ETB, haste, or protection. So a 6 CP card is very difficult to play off of playing a 1 CP backup as well. So that's where it kind of gets tricky. You want to play this on 4 backups as your 5th backup. So you tap 1 for the chaos, and then you have 3 backups up to do 1 discard and play out your 5 CP card. So I have a bunch of targets here. So in fire, Ignacio and Cloud are both pretty solid targets. Nail would be neat, but because of the draw from it, but again, that's 6 CP. In Ice, you got Kuja and 7 CP. Sephiroth, you got Azure Dragoon. Wind doesn't actually have a good 5 CP target, so you have stuff like Fina and Vaughn, but you're probably not in Dark for Wind anyway.
I was thinking about Fina as a bring back target.
It's just that then you have to pitch an extra card from hand, or like you played off 3. Like you're going to be floating CP. It's a lot. It's doable, but it's just really awkward. Earth has stuff like Delita, Cecil, the starter Barret. That's a really good combo. Getting that starter Barret out over and over to just keep, like in a Final Fantasy VII deck, that's great. Like Rydia, a really easy way to play back Rydia. Sorry, I'm gonna let you talk. I just need to finish this list, okay?
No, go ahead.
Lightning's got a lot of good targets. We've got Estinian, Fusoya, Fel Thanos, Man in Black, the Opus X Ramza that recurs a Final Fantasy Tactics from your break zone. Like those are all going to be really good. And then Water, and I thought of this earlier when we were talking about your deck. This thing can bring back Lena, that brings back another card. And it could bring back Cloud of Darkness for removal. It can bring back Ico and draw search a summon, and then that Ico is going to draw you a card. It can bring back Ultros. Like one of the things about playing Ultros is once you run out of all 3 of them, you're like, well, crap, that was really good until I lost them. But having this 1 CP card that's going to replay your Cloud of Darknesses, Lenas, and Ultroses, like I think that I'm going to try Mono Water with this Chaos as soon as the set comes out.
Sounds good. I can't wait.
Sorry, that was a tangent. I basically wrote an article about it.
If you guys didn't know, he's a teacher. So this is look into his classroom.
But yeah, did I say anything? Is there anything I didn't say that you want to comment on?
No, I think you covered it, buddy.
Okay, what do you think? Do you want to do another one, or are we running out of time?
I think we got time for one more each.
Okay, let's do it.
So another card that's getting introduced that is creating a new deck. I don't think it's going to be a very good deck, but it creates a Guardians tier deck, and that's Nyx, making the Kingsglaive deck. So when Nyx enters the field, put one job Kingsglaive you control into the break zone. When you do, choose one forward, break it. And then when the job Kingsglaive other than Nyx you control is put from the field to the break zone, select one of the two actions, and Nyx gets haste, or choose one forward, dull it. So that's okay already because he comes in and he breaks the forward and then he gets haste or dull, so he kind of combos off of himself. But then you pair that with... Oh my goodness, it's not on the FFX page. Why do we plug you so much?
Oh, there's two of them. So I actually have them right. My thing.
Perfect. Can you please read Crow?
Yeah, so we have... Luch is the one of them, right? And then Crow's the other one. Okay, so Crow is a 2 CP backup, and she's also Kingsglaive. When Crow is put from the field into the break zone, choose one forward in your break zone, add it to your hand, and she has a dull break ability to choose one forward and dull it.
So you use Nyx, break Crow, get something back from your break zone, and then Nyx ends up being a kind of pseudo 2 CP forward, because you're getting that card back from breaking Crow. Then he gets haste, and off he goes swinging. So yes, you lose a backup, but you're also gaining a character back from your hand. So maybe you already have another Crow or something else in your break zone, and you're just getting it back, and you can just play it on your next turn. So I think that's... Yep.
Sorry to jump in there. One thing about the Crow I didn't mention, she's 3 CP, so when you get that card back, you're actually paying for her to be a traditional, like, pseudo 1 CP backup. So the Nyx is... whatever way you want to spin it, your Nyx can be a 2 CP forward if you want, but then you've paid a full 3 CP for Crow, or your Crow could then be redeemed as a 1 CP backup, but your Nyx was full cost. But that's still fine, because he broke something.
I'm spinning it.
Yeah.
It's a very lightning card. It just breaks something without too much of without any restrictions, and then it gets haste. So I mean, if you're lightning, that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, and the other Kingsglaive is pretty unremarkable in terms of his abilities, but he is a 2 CP backup, so just another option for you to break.
For sure. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that is holding me back from Kingsglaive, is it not being a very powerful deck. Is okay, so the Nyx Crow interaction isn't god awful, but there's no other cool interactions like that we've seen so far.
Yeah, we'll see if there's more. There's always Bart's.
Bart's is pretty great. He has all the jobs.
Yeah. Okay, final one that we're going to look at is Ursula. She's one of the Earth Legends for the set, and she's a 4 CP, 5k forward job monk. When Ursula enters the field, choose one job monk or card named monk of cost 2 or less in your break zone and play it to the field. So that means that you can just pitch a 2 CP monk to play her and then just play it onto the field instead. So it's really nice during the early game to play a forward and a backup. She has the ability put one job monk or card name monk other than Ursula into the break zone, choose one of the 2 following actions. Until the end of the turn, Ursula gains 4,000 power and brave, making her 9k brave. Or choose one forward, deal it damage equal to Ursula's power, but she's only a 5k. So you have to work around those abilities. I like the first one because you're just always threatening that on attacks or blocks, and your opponent is going to have to think about it, but you have to be careful because, again, it's one of those cards you have to weigh out. Because if your opponent just might be like, great, sack a monk and I'll chump block, and then you've lost a backup or a forward or something, and that was fine for me. So you have to be really careful about weighing that out. I think the second ability is going to be pretty neat with like Enna Crow out or Ingus out, and you can get her to a 6 or a 7k, or playing her with something like Wall to give her a 2k boost. You're going to have to do something, but it's going to be pretty sweet. You could do Lys in Earth Fire monks, and that's actually kind of neat because Sabin and his teacher, I'm totally blanking on his name right now, are both, Duncan, are both monks as well. So you get monk synergy through those guys, and you have monk searching through Matt. But then if you're going to play Matt, I think you got to go Earthwind with Star Sibyl, because Matt is preferably a Star Sibyl target, but then you get Maria. So I think if you go, it's going to be a dual color monk deck, and both Earth Fire and Earthwind give you unconditional Anthem abilities that affect all your forwards. So I'm pretty excited to try both of those, and I think it could get pretty out of hand if you use the Opus IX Yang that makes monks into removal options. One last thing, Princess Sarah is another way to get this girl going power-wise. Like, you can kind of buff her up in a mono. If you wanted to do mono Earth monks, then that would also be an option for you.
Wow, spoiling 2 cards in one go there.
Yeah, man. Well, that's what. Hey, you did that with the Kingslave, so you know.
Oh yeah, rabble.
Yeah. So you know what? Yeah, go ahead.
You picked this card because it was category 4.
Yeah, and Earth.
And Earth.
Yeah, so I sure did.
Yeah, you gonna put this in your mono Earth?
Well, I think I'm gonna try building those. I actually already built an Earthwind list, but I haven't seen the whole set yet, so it's not done. But I'm definitely gonna try this out.
It's a dip.
This is gonna. I'll tell you right now. This is gonna be a cheap legend to buy. You're not gonna have to break the bank to get this girl.
Yeah, the fact that this is a legend is pretty underwhelming, but it's it does some things. It has a lot of text on it, but I don't think it's legend quality.
I should do the film move and just kind of wait a couple months till it's like 2 cents on Troll and Toad, and then buy it then.
That's a very frugal thing of you to do.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about a lot of fun cards today. Kadaj is probably the only one that's a standout meta card on its own. The rest of them are builds around cards that are going to be super fun. So that's pretty exciting. And Opus 11 isn't that far away. It's just midway through March it's coming out, and we'll be able to start testing these decks and sharing them with you. So that's pretty exciting.
So excited. I'm so kind of rattled that it was like, oh, there's going to be more FF9 cards. And who did we get? Black Mage Soldier, a crappy Kuja, and I believe that's about it.
I'm kind of coming around on that Kuja a little bit, and it is cool to see it in a different element, but yeah, it's not what I was expecting.
I think we talked about that like a month ago. We were like,
that's true.
What element would you see Kuja in?
And I said lightning.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so I don't know, I should get an award or something.
I think you should just go work for Square Enix.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's it for this week's episode of the Mysidian Legend. Don't forget to use that promo code PORUMPALUM10 at cardsofulys.com to get your discount. And you can check out my articles at themysidiapost.com and check us out on YouTube as well. And, throw a like and a subscribe and all that stuff to show your support. And then finally, we're going to thank FFX because they're putting almost all the spoilers up on the website. I mean, those other ones came out yesterday, so I don't really blame them. But that's something that they didn't used to do, and not everybody does that, so F yeah, FFX.
F yeah, FFX.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, Mysidians. We'll see you next time, and David, sign them off here.
How can I not remember what we call them? Goodbye, Mysidians, and we'll see y'all next week.